Welcome to the Hodja on Architecture podcast. Video Game Architecture, Chapter 3, The World Building. World building, as a sub-branch of storytelling, is the process of creating imaginary worlds for telling stories. The term may encompass different scales and realities, ranging from an ordinary but non-existent village to an inhabited planet and even a complex system of galaxies. However, world building often involves the construction of fantastic environments. Therefore, the creators usually put forward a new set of geography as continents, oceans, and climate, ecology as flora and fauna, and civilized inhabitants as humans or new races with technology, history, and most importantly, culture. The world-building process often begins with the construction of a fictional map, a concise map displaying the geographical features of the terrain and the exact place of the settlements can be helpful for both designers and the audience in terms of storytelling. The existence of different biomes, including plains, mountains, seas, deserts, wetlands, and forests, as well as towns, capitals, and roads, would also define the destinies of the local inhabitants. The cartography of these built worlds is sometimes referred to as geofiction. In these fictional worlds, of course, there also should be biological beings scattered around. Life forms such as shiny, magical trees, cryptozoological animals and monsters, and even hybrids of these two are common. Apart from the flora and fauna, there are also some intelligent civilized races, either humans or other anthropomorphic creatures, interacting with the defined terrain, flora, and fauna. In the real world, the distinctive feature of the only civilized biological species is being gifted with the ability to think abstractly. This exceptional skill led people to create diverse cultures. Culture is defined as the totality of values, activities, and products. Cultural products of humanity are generally divided into two: intangible culture on one hand and tangible or material culture on the other. Features such as rituals, norms, music, religion, customs, skills, mythology, and language fall into the category of intangible culture, whereas those with a physical appearance are considered tangible culture. In other words, the belongings of humankind, such as tools, clothes, and architecture, constitute the material culture. The creation of constructed cultures, also called concultures, is a key element of world building, as civilized races can only be distinguished by their existence. Cultures play a decisive role in how the built world reflects and represents stories that are relevant in the real world. Moreover, they discuss how the built world is made to feel realistic. An invented culture can be tailored in detail according to the story's needs and does not carry the baggage of an existing culture. However, making up an alien culture should be challenging. Therefore, the designers somehow investigate existing human cultures for inspiration. Usual methods are hypothetically using an existing culture out of its context and creating different combinations of the various features of distinct real-world cultures. The 20th century developments, like the growth of archaeology and anthropology, the spread of mass media, the emergence of new tourism opportunities, and the waves of immigrants arriving in the Western world, all helped people to encounter first-hand cross-cultural experiences. And more complex fictional cultures began to appear as the audience became increasingly sophisticated in their expectations of their existence. The configuration of a detailed fictional culture, for the sake of storytelling and world-building, requires determining both intangible and tangible features of the civilized inhabitants in question. Several key considerations must be taken into account regarding the intangible aspects. What are the values in this world? What do its inhabitants believe in? What do they celebrate? How do they communicate? Are there new languages? What are the economic, financial, and political systems? Are there battles? What about history? Material culture, on the other hand, requires further explanation, especially in constructed worlds for visual media, as it is the concrete manifestation of culture. Another set of questions should be asked. What do inhabitants of this world wear? Does the clothing represent social status? What kind of tools do they use? What is the technological level? Are there vehicles they drive? And especially, what do they build? How was their architecture formed? And what does all this material culture do with the main story? It is always argued that architecture works as an essential storytelling element. The book Building Imaginary Worlds accepts it as one of the many facets of culture, along with the other infrastructure features, which had to be considered concretely as an integrated whole. The architecture alone can convey a multitude of messages in a built world, just as it does in the real world. By just observing the structures, the economic cycle, technological grade, and social organization of a society can all be understood. In terms of visual world building, architecture also helps deepen the spatial experience. Architecture is a crucial sub-element of world building and essentially a larger-scale storytelling, since the physical space does much of the work of conveying the story that the designers are trying to tell. All the criteria mentioned here are carefully crafted in world-building attempts. They all serve to facilitate the genuine realism of the fictional environment. They utilize the background richness and verisimilitude of the story. Some of the features may be explained in detail, some others may be mentioned superficially, or some may be left, consciously or not, to the imagination of the audience. The features are perceived through real-world experiences, as designers make decisions based on their actual relationships in the physical world. Simon Provencher states the golden rule of world building as, unless specified otherwise, everything inside your world is assumed to behave exactly as it would in the real world. This concludes the Video Game Architecture Chapter 3, The World Building. Thanks for listening. See you in the next episode.